Good afternoon. We'll go ahead and begin the full Committee of Education Administration. Welcome, everyone. Appreciate you all being here, especially our those who are being added to the Board of Trustees for the various universities. Thank you so much for making the trip. I hope the weather was okay for you as you come up. But as we begin, let's have the clerk call the roll.
Representative Baum, Carringer, Cassada, Sapicki, Clemens, Cochran, Darby, Gillespie, Hakeem, Haston, Lafferty, Love, Parkinson, Reagan, Vice Chairman Hurt, Chairman White.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, members. Anybody have a comment or question or recognition other than our board members? We're going to recognize in a minute that you would like to speak on? Representative Cochran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to welcome Mr. Dran Crenshaw, the gentleman he's here with today. We'll talk to him here in just a minute as a board appointment, but good to have a couple folks from the 23rd District. Thank you.
Chairman Sapicki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to let this committee know that it's a very important day today in Tennessee. John Williams was born on this day. I'm not going to say how many years ago, but happy birthday, John.
Happy birthday, John. For those who know, John is our legal counsel that makes sure that we don't do things that we shouldn't be doing, right? All right. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to ask Representative Harold Love. I always like to begin our committee with a prayer. We make decisions based upon that affect our children's education across the state. So, Representative Love, would you lead us in a prayer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this day. We thank you, Lord, for those who have traveled and have arrived here safely. We thank you, God, that we have a chance to come and deliberate on our children's education. Bless us, Lord, with wisdom, with hearing ears, oh God, is our prayer. Amen.
Thank you, Representative Love. Members, and for those who carrying bills that are in the committee also, just so you know, before we get to our bills, we have a consent calendar that we will deal with. We have those, we're adding, confirming appointments to our university boards of trustees, and we have approximately 14 of those to go through. And the way we'll handle this, members, if you remember last week in committee, is that it will be a consent calendar, so there'll be one vote at the end. But what we do is bring each member up, and for those of you coming to speak, take about 1 minute, introduce yourself, and tell us where you're from and where the appointment is, and say a couple things about yourself, and just so we can get to know you. And then you'll go back to your seat, and then if any member has a question, of course, they can ask during that time. And then at the end, we will have one vote on all 14 on our calendar. So let's start out. First, we have HJR 104, and we've got Leader Curtis Johnson, who's going to introduce our first confirmation, which is Carrie McInnes. I need a motion and a second on the consent calendar. Okay, thank you. Curtis, Representative Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, glad to be with you this afternoon. House Joint Resolution 104 is the confirmation of Carrie McManus for the Board of Trustees for Austin Peay State University.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry about that.
No worries. I'm used to that.
Ms. McManus, you are recognized. Go ahead. We're all live audio visual stream, so just say your name and as you begin in your position.
Yes, sir. Thank you. My name is Carrie McInnes. I live here in Nashville, Tennessee. I grew up in Sweetwater, Tennessee, also known as Monroe County, Tennessee. Went to Austin Peay, and it's an honor to be considered for your confirmation to the Austin Peay Board of Trustees. Some of you may recall that 28 years ago, the Tennessee State Legislature made a bill and appointed 3 student members to be on the respective Tennessee Higher Education Commission, Tennessee Board of Regents, and UT Board of Trustees. And I was the first student member on the Tennessee Board of Regents in 1994-95 as ex officio. And that was after serving as ex officio student member on the Tennessee Board of Regents policy.
Let me see, I can cut her off.
Oh, it went out. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And so I've lived in Nashville since 1996, worked for Pinnacle Bank, where I serve as Senior Vice President and Financial Advisor. And since graduating from Austin Peay, I've continue to be an active alum, have served in a variety of capacities at the university on the Austin Peay Board of Foundation Trustees. Also was the inaugural chairman of the College of Business Advisory Board. And then in 2019, I finished 2 terms on the Tennessee Student Assistance Corporation Board, appointed by former Governor Bill Haslam. And that was an exciting time, if you remember, because that is when Tennessee Promise and Tennessee Connect were both launched. And I can tell you that I am a product of higher education, thanks to blessings and thanks to hard work and scholarships and also student loans that I diligently paid back for many years. I'm glad to be here today, and I think it's a role of servant leadership. I think God gives us all talents and abilities, and how we use those is to his glory. And I think it's a ministry to serve not only my alma mater, but also the state of Tennessee. So thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions of our guest today? Representative Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I renew my motion to,
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. McMinnis. You can have a seat, and we'll
Thank
go
you.
to the next one, and when we come back, we'll do the confirmations at the end. Item number 2, House Joint Resolution 105, which is the confirmation of appointment for Brigadier General Robin Mealer. Representative Leader Johnson, you are recognized, and Ms. Mealer, you get ready to come down. And Mr. Gary Luck, be on standby. You'll be next. You may begin.
Good afternoon, or is he going to go first?
Leader Johnson, you want to say anything at the beginning?
no, sir, Mr. Chairman, but I would like to say that all 4 of our reappointments are excellent people.
These are reappointments. Okay. You're recognized.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My back to Tennessee for board meetings and to meet with you all today. I spent 34 years in service to our nation, and I continue to serve in a civilian capacity in Washington. And so I'm a firm believer in service to our nation. One of the times that I was fortunate enough to serve beyond Fort Campbell was I served as the professor of military science at Austin Peay. And that was my first connection with Austin Peay. I actually completed a master's degree while I was there. And it established a lifelong association with that university. My children went to Austin Peay. They are also graduates of Austin Peay. And this is, in fact, a confirmation. I've served for the last 4 years as a board of trustee. I'm a firm believer in education. I think it's a national imperative that our population is educated, and the sky's the limit in what we can do with that education. I think I'll give you a short vignette. When I was in high school, I was not going to go to college. I was going to enlist in the service, where my chemistry teacher believed that that was an honorable profession to serve in our nation's military. But she shook her ruler at me and said, "You're going to go to college first." And so I've never stopped learning. And I was very fortunate enough to have Mrs. Bertha Spar at my promotion and at my retirement ceremony. And what a difference she made in my life. And so I will continue to serve in furthering education for our nation. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Chairman Reagan, we got a general here. You'd like to say anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very quickly, did I hear which service you served in?
I was in the Army, sir.
I'm so sorry for you. I was in the Air Force. Seriously, thank you for your service to your
Yes, sir.
nation and for continuing to serve. We appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Members, any question of Brigadier General Robin Mealer? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 3, House Joint Resolution 241, being brought to us by Leader Johnson. This is Mr. Gary Luck.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
the next 2, General Luck and Mr. Jenkins they're not able to attend, so I will speak in their behalf.
Okay, why don't you speak on behalf of Mr. Luck?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Joint Resolution 105 is the reappointment for retired General Gary Luck. retired four-star general that served our nation for 36 years in many, many capacities. I could stand here for the next 30 minutes and not tell you all the accomplishments that he's made in his military career and his accomplishments throughout his lifetime. But what I can tell you is he is a soldier's soldier and a leader's leader. And I renew my motion for his reappointment.
Thank you very much. Yes, I was also reading, served multiple tours in Vietnam, with tours as a commander of the 5th Special Forces Group, A411 in 1964 through 65. Quite a resume. Thank you. Any questions on the confirmation of Mr. Luck? Thank you. Let's go now to item 4, committee HJR 242, confirmation of Don Jenkins. Leader Johnson, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a reappointment for Don Jenkins. Don Jenkins is a lifelong resident of Clarksville. And Mr. Chairman, you'll appreciate this. He is a graduate of Rhodes College. Did you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
I heard you. Yes, a great Memphis school.
After graduating from Rhodes College, he came back to Clarksville and started working in his family's dealership, a Ford Lincoln Mercury dealership, which has grown to be one of the largest automobile dealerships in the nation. And his family's involved with that, and his daughter is working her way up to take his place. He's always been a very avid supporter of Austin P, a very active member of our community, and it's an honor to recommend him for reappointment.
Thank you very much. Yes, Rhodes College, but my ACT, they will not let me drive on campus because my ACT is not quite to the Rhodes standards. Any questions on Don Jenkins' confirmation? Thank you. Thank you very much. And item number 5, House Joint Resolution 111. We have Representative Ryan Williams bringing before us for Tennessee Technological University. We have Mr. Fred Lowry. Mr. Lowry?
Yes, Chairman and members, I have two today. Mr. Lowry has served on the state Tennessee Tech's LGI board. He is currently the Senior Vice President and President of Customer Channels Group. He holds a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from Tennessee Tech University and a master's degree in manufacturing management from Kettering University. And I would appreciate the committee's support.
Okay, Mr. Lowry, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'm Fred Lowry. As he said, I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'm a proud Tech alum. I went on and had some level of success in corporate America, and I'm super excited about helping Tennessee Tech deliver on the strategic plan and really supporting students from the Upper Cumberland and rural areas and increasing the diversity of our student body and helping to prepare students and giving my perspective as a corporate leader around what that looks like. So I'm having a great time on the board and would love to continue to do that.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions of Mr. Lowry while he's before us? Representative Carringer from Knoxville.
I just had to say, you're from a great town, Knoxville, Tennessee, so you get my vote already.
Thank you very much. Wonderful place.
Representative Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And certainly, we want to thank you for your service already, and certainly we'll be supporting you for your reappointment.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Lowry, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
House Joint Resolution 112, also brought to us by Representative Ryan Williams for Tennessee Technological University, is Thomas Lynn.
Thank you, Chairman members. House Resolution 112 is for Thomas Lynn. I have known Thomas Lynn for many years. He is a Cookeville native. He is currently the chairman of the board for First National Bank of Tennessee. He holds a bachelor's degree in business management and a master's of business administration from Tennessee Tech University, and is also a graduate of the Southeast School of Banking and Louisiana State University. And he also is the husband of Kay.
I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah, she'll appreciate that, I'm sure.
I'm sure she will. Thank you, Ryan.
Mr. Lynn, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. I'm Thomas Lynn, as he said. Got a BS and MBA from Tech. Very proud of that. It's good to see Fred here and other Tech alums throughout. I'm a new person to the board, so if you confirm me, I will continue on and certainly enjoy that service. Tech is a great economic engine for the Upper Cumberland, throughout 365,000 people in that area, in the 14 counties. And we're very proud of what it can do for that area. One thing I have done is the last 4 years of governor's school teaching, I asked the kids to put down on a resume what college they would like to graduate from and trying to apply for a job. One thing I noticed that none of them picked any schools in Tennessee. So I hope that we do a good job with media, marketing, and of course, money to try to help promote ourselves, because our colleges are great. Of the 6 that are represented here and the land-grant colleges, all of them are good in Tennessee. So we just got to get the word out so people can enjoy it. The students are great. Whenever we get to meet with them, we certainly are impressed with them. So appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I hope the confirmation will work out. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions of Mr. Lynn? Seeing none. Thank you, sir, for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you, Leader Williams. Appreciate that. Let's go to item number 7, House Joint Resolution 116. The infamous Representative Love is going to introduce Dr. Joseph Walker III of Tennessee State University.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have coming before us Dr. Joseph Warren Walker III, senior pastor of the historic Mount Zion Baptist Church in Nashville, holds a bachelor's degree from Southern University, a master's of divinity from Vanderbilt University, a doctorate of ministry from Princeton Theological Seminary, and holds honorary doctorates from Harvard Medical College, Southern University, and Kentucky State University.
Thank you. Dr. Walker, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And of course, it is an honor to be here today for consideration again to the Tennessee State University Board of Trustees. To continue the work that we've begun has been a tremendous honor for me. Tennessee State HBCU doing extraordinary work, and we are certainly excited about the growth of the university, the vision, the strategic vision of our president, and looking forward to continuing this work. And so we certainly appreciate the opportunity and consideration
Okay.
for reappointment.
Thank you. Would you double check, make sure the red light's on your mic?
Did you not? Yeah, both are on.
Did everybody hear that? Okay, thank you.
Both.
Any questions? Representative Parkinson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My colleague, he rattled off 202 titles, and I was trying to keep up, and there was so many suffixes and acronyms, and the good bishop. I just want to say, number one, thank you, and thank you for your support of TSU. I also want to say that I've been to 2 churches in Nashville, right? One is yours, and one is the Good Reverend's. And his service was shorter, right. Yours was better. Right. But thank you, honestly, thank you for what you do. And there's a lot more that I know, a lot more stuff that you do in the community that's not being named here. I don't think we'd have enough time in the committee. And so, and then the Good Reverend, he speaks long and slow. And so, and sometimes he pivots. You do the pivot too, and turn around to the, okay, I'm just kidding. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your indulgence. And Bishop, that's awesome. I appreciate you. Glad you're there.
Thank you. You're welcome. Dr. Joseph Walker, never invite Pastor Parkinson to preach at your church. Okay? They go on forever. Any questions of Dr. Joseph Walker III? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. Item 8, HJR 228, brought to us also by Representative Love, the appointment of Van Pinnock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have coming before us today Mr. Van Pinnock, who is the Chief Administrative Officer for Dugard Communications. He previously served as Director of Corporate and Community Relations at Fisk University and is the co-founder and former president of In-Shuttle Transportation. Holds an undergraduate degree in Business Management from Fisk University, an associate degree in Risk Management certification from the Insurance Associates, and a Master of Business Administration from the University of the People. He is also the co-founder of the College Hill Neighborhood Association, and serves also as a deacon and Sunday school teacher at Hopewell Missionary Baptist Church. And so we bring before you Mr. Van Pinnock. And I failed to mention that he has done so much work in our HBCU area. So we bring before you Mr. Van Pinnock for confirmation.
Mr. Pinnock, you're recognized. Yes, make sure both red lights are on.
Well, all right. Now?
We
Yes.
got you.
Good. Well, thank you so much. One thing that Representative Love did not mention was that I am a proud resident of District 58 and have been so for about 15 years. But I've lived in Nashville for 45 years. I am a product of 3 historically Black universities. I was raised on one from kindergarten through 12th grade. I received my undergraduate degree as Representative Love mentioned. But also, we have had a tremendous opportunity to serve our community by way of a community university partnership with Tennessee State, which started several years ago. The idea of the partnership was to break down some of the barriers of isolation that our older residents experienced. And so they would come and go to campus and take part in several university-led workshops. It was very wholesome, enriching for them. So we were happy to be a part of that. I am really interested in serving because anything that I have been able to accomplish professionally and to a large degree personally has been because I've been molded and guided by the people who worked at those 3 institutions. So my obligation to give back is deep, and I am so grateful to be able to do that through Tennessee State at this time. So I'm honored to be nominated, and I'm pleased to serve if confirmed.
Thank you, sir. Representative Parkinson?
Mr. Chair, you didn't get the signal. I was telling you to check your phone, but I appreciate you being here since he called me. I didn't want to speak though, but thank you for being here. Thank you for, and congratulations too.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it very much. Any questions of our guest before he, seeing none, thank you.
Okay.
That brings us to item number 9, House Joint Resolution 243. Representative Love, you're going to bring before us Obi McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we have also for nomination to the Tennessee State University Board of Trustees, Mr. Obi McKenzie. Obi McKenzie is the Vice Chairman of Cordell Capital and is an experienced executive with over 45 years of financial service experience. He received his undergraduate degree from Tennessee State University, an MBA from Harvard Business School in 1972, and an honorary doctorate of commercial science from the University of Hartford in 2017. He is a founding board member of both the National Association of Security Professionals and the Twego Foundation, and is chairman emeritus of MIDA, an initiative to mobilize infrastructure investments in sub-Saharan Africa. An accomplished speaker and also teacher of Bible economics and a vocalist of Christian music. Unfortunately, he is not able to be with us today, Mr. Chairman, but we would certainly recommend that he be considered for renomination to the Tennessee State University Board of Trustees.
Thank you very much. Ms. McKenzie, did he come down? Was he not here?
No, sir, he's not here.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry. Okay, members, any questions of Representative Love about the presentation of Mr. Obi McKenzie? Seeing none. Members, we now go to item number 10, House Joint Resolution 239 for the confirmation of Christine, I believe it's Karbowiak. I'm not sure I pronounced that. I don't think she is here today. Representative Sapicki, would you like to take that one?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like the committee to be able to consider Christine Karbowiak to Middle Tennessee State University Board of Trustees. She has served the state of Tennessee and Middle Tennessee State, or wants to serve Middle Tennessee State moving forward. So at that time, I'd like to nominate acceptance.
Any questions to the representative for Ms. Karbowiak? Thank you. Okay, item number 11. This will be the appointment of Cato Johnson, the University of Memphis. I'm going to ask Representative Parkinson, would you like to say a few words about Mr. Johnson? He was not able to be here
Right. I'd be honored to, and thank you, Mr. Chair. He was just actually, he was approved in the Senate, but they were doing it via Zoom or virtual. But Cato Johnson has served as Chief of Staff and Senior Vice President of Public Policy and Regulatory Affairs at Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare since 1985. Active in public service for many years, Cato is former chair of the Tennessee Higher Education Commission and has served the University of Memphis, Southwest Tennessee Community College, and Shelby County Schools in many capacities. Currently, he is the chairman of TennCare Medical Advisory Committee and a member of the State Board of Education and Leadership Tennessee, class number 4. Cato earned a bachelor's degree and a master's degree from Memphis State University, now the University of Memphis, and I'm honored to put forth his nomination. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Parkinson. And I'll just add, I hope Mr. Johnson's watching online today, and I wish he was here. I've known Mr. Johnson for many, many years, and we're just going to give him such a very hard time today. He's into so many things down back in West Tennessee and Shelby County and Memphis. Just a quick story about Mr. Johnson. He's quite a character, and a couple years ago, we were planning a trip from Memphis to Johnson City, which is an 8-hour drive. And I was going to drive and he was going to ride. And I said, there's no way I'm spending 8 hours in the car with you. So we flew. So anyway, he's a great person. I'm glad to see him put back on the U of M Board of Trustees. Any questions? Seeing none. Okay, we're on item number 12, HJR 123. And I'm going to have Representative Carringer speak on behalf of Alan Carter. If you'd come on forward. And then did she step out? Okay. Mr. Cochran, Representative Cochran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since Representative Carringer has stepped out and this nominee is from God's country in the 23rd District, I'll be happy to take over and present to you Mr. Alan Carter for the University of Tennessee Knoxville Advisory Board. I will add this in. For the Board of Trustees appointments that we had a week or so ago, you heard me ask each of those appointments, what they would do to fight for Tennessee values and to ensure that the flagship school of our state fights for those values. I can tell you from experience, Alan Carter will do that because I see him do it every day in the business that he runs and in his many ways of public service. He is really just the embodiment of those Tennessee values and of building a business from the ground up. And so very honored to present him to you today.
Thank you, Representative. Mr. Carter, you're recognized.
Yes, sir. My name is Alan Carter. I'm from Athens, Tennessee, McMinn County. Mark is our wonderful rep. I graduated from University of Tennessee, Knoxville with a BS in finance in 1995. I went to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville because my father graduated law school there in 1962. He also played tennis there. My mother got her master's in teaching from UT. I went to the Baylor School in Chattanooga to boarding school, and there was no other option for me but to go to Tennessee. I love Tennessee. I look forward to working with Chancellor Plowman as we move forward with their initiatives in Knoxville. I also look forward to working with all of you all, and I want to thank you all for your service. It's a tough time in our country and in our state, and I really appreciate everything that you all do. So I'm up for the challenge, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Members, any questions to Mr. Allen? And thank you for mentioning Chancellor Donde Plowman. She's doing a great work up there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We're now on item 13, HJR 124. Representative Cochran, would you like to take that one also, since Ms. Carringer not in? And this is for the appointment of Dr. Phil Wink, University of Tennessee Health Science Center.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I believe Dr. Wink is with us today. Absolutely. But no, very honored to present him to you today. As again, Dr. Wink may not be from my district, but I'm a UT alum, and I appreciate his service to the state of Tennessee and to the University of Tennessee.
Dr. Wink, thank you for being here. You're recognized.
Am I on? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I do appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a re-upper. I had a redshirt year last year, and so I was a one-year term. I serve on the UT Health Science Center Advisory Board. I am a graduate of UT Knoxville and also UT College of Dentistry. I practiced dentistry for 25 years in my hometown in East Tennessee. For whoever was cheering for Knoxville, I was from Clinton, which Knoxville's actually a satellite of Clinton. So, but it was a pleasure to be here. Then 25 years later, I moved here and became president of Delta Dental. Delta Dental is a dental insurance company. I know you know that, but the thing I'm most proud of is the fact that we have been recognized by every location in the state of Tennessee for our philanthropy. We're the single largest donor to the UT College of Dentistry, about $16 million. We give away over 35% of our net every single year. We are also Meharry College of Dentistry's single largest donor. We want dentists to join our panels, so I like them to see our name whenever they walk through the doors. One other request I'm going to extend to you guys. There is a dearth of dentists in the state, and it's getting worse every day. There are 3 counties now that have no dentist. There are 260 dentists that are my age or older that are still practicing. And let me just tell you, you don't want me to practice on you. You shouldn't want them to. The time has come for us to face the fact that we have got to do a better job. We will be bringing forth, with the help of Dr. Hildreth, with the governor, with the presidents of all the universities, to say we have got to have more dentists in this state, or industries will not go to your county. So, Mr. Chairman, that's my report, and thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Wink. Members, questions? Representative Parkinson?
Hey, Doc, thank you for saying what you said. I think that's very important. And if I'm not mistaken, all of you UT folks can be identified by your orange ties, right? But if I'm not mistaken, the dental school, is that only at UT Health Science Center, or is it across the state in the UT system?
Its location is actually in Memphis.
Right, UT
Yes,
Health
sir.
Science Center. Right. We're proud of that. And so, well, I appreciate you saying what you're saying. And that applies to residencies also. We need more of that also. So thank you again. And
Yes, sir.
congratulations. Look forward to you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Representative Love?
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Have you all done any partnerships with Matthew Walker Health Center?
The UT does. UT College of Dentistry does. We have supported about 3 working poor clinics. We actually sponsor 17 in the state, and that's still not enough. But yes, we've done with Matthew Walker. We've also dealt with Church Health in Memphis, which I know anybody from Memphis knows Church Health, with every single interfaith dental clinic here in town. So every clinic in this state, we provide them with funds.
Okay. Thank you for your help
Yes,
and your
sir.
service.
That reminded me, Dr. Wink, are you all also involved with the Missions of Mercy every year, the dentist down in Memphis?
Yeah, we're their major sponsor. Yes, sir. It's quite an event to see that many people who are poor that'll stand up at 3 o'clock in the morning to wait to get teeth pulled.
Right. Yeah. We put in,
Frightening thing.
they do such a great work. We put in appropriation for them this year because they do such great work.
They do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any questions of Dr. Wink? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. Okay, members, item number 14, the last one, HJR 125. This is the appointment of Johnny Woolfolk, and I want to go to Representative Darby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Wolford comes highly recommended, and he's a highly successful businessman and lives and works on a farm that's been in his family since 1865. He received his Bachelor of Science degree in Agricultural Science from the University of Tennessee at Martin and his Master of Science degree in Animal Science, Reproductive Physiology from Kansas State University. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Representative Darby. My first comment is, gentlemen, thank you for opening your session with prayer today. I think that's extremely important that we don't forget that. I appreciate the opportunity to be here before you. I am a lifelong agriculturalist. I believe deeply in agriculture, the future of agriculture. It's a very fast-changing industry. The opportunity to go to the UT Martin Advisory Board and serve in a position where they're looking towards the future and the needs of West Tennessee people. I spent a day with Chancellor Carver about 3 weeks ago and looked at the plans there for the development of that campus in agriculture. the facilities they're wanting to improve and develop to meet the needs of the food industry that's so fast changing in West Tennessee. We're processing more food now in West Tennessee with incoming companies that we ever imagined. So that's a challenge to us, but one I think that we will be up to the task to meet. And I look forward to being part of that as a member of the advisory board. And I thank you for this time with you today.
Thank you, sir. Questions? Mr. Woolfolk. Thank you, Representative Darby. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Members, we that is the 14 on our consent calendar. We have one more, but that had to be on regular calendar. We have a motion second to approve the consent. Any further discussion? Any objection to the question? All those in favor of moving the consent calendar out to calendar rules indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Moves out. Thank you all so very much. Thank you for the hard work that you do and give to each of these institutions. Our state is much better off. Thank you so very much for your time. Now we go.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I know I'm out of order, but I did want to acknowledge the fact that Mr. Fred Lowry and Mr. Van Pinnock and Bishop Walker are all members of what I believe is the greatest fraternity on the earth, the Omega Psi Phi fraternity. So I want to acknowledge that also, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, members. Okay, members, we have a regular calendar. We're going to start in now. It's 4. What time is it, by the way? Let's see here. 4:11. Okay. So our first item is, this is one that was bumped off the consent calendar last week because it could not be here. Is Mr. Jacobs here? Is Mr. Joey Jacobs here? No. If not, it's bumped off as HJR 109. I'm going to ask Chairman Sapicki to read the information about Mr. Jacobs, Board of Trustees for MTSU.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Thank you.
Members, this is a nomination of Joey Jacobs to the Board of Trustees of Middle Tennessee State University. I am confident that he'll be able to do this job in the utmost Tennessean way. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Members, anybody have a comment or question about Mr. Jacobs? I've got a sheet if you'd like to read more. Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned that he was bumped off consent. What's the reason that he was bumped off consent?
Because last week he wasn't here and with the other ones and we bumped him off. And I think that it was to be here this week, but some people can't make it due to COVID or other things. So
okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Did like the ones we did that weren't here. Question's been called on resolution. Objection? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving House Joint Resolution 109 out to calendar and rules indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Let's go on now to item number 2. Chairman Baum, he is not here today. We had to roll HB 139 1 week. Chairman Reagan, item number 3, House Bill 1238. Sir, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. I have an amendment on this bill. Just a second, I'll give you code here. 5503.
That is correct.
And this amendment makes the bill. So I would ask we go ahead and put it on the bill and I'll explain then.
We had a motion put on the bill. Any objection to that? Seeing none, all those in favor of adding the amendment to House Bill 1238 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. You're now back on your bill as properly amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I bring a very important issue before us. We as a nation have endured revolution, Cold War, World War, regional wars, and hot regional wars. We have survived these conflicts and won. Today, we are in a new kind of conflict, a war of information. Additionally, today, the Chinese Communist Party, or the CCP, has risen to an illegitimate prosperity and become one of the greatest threats to the American way of life. Moreover, it is It's fueled by the threat and abuse of information at every turn. For example, the CCP steals intellectual property. It then obscures its intentions and covers its tracks with the spread of propaganda. This is not an abstract phenomena playing out in some remote realm of politics. It is happening in our nation in full view, right in front of us. Here in our own state of Tennessee, home to some of the nation's greatest schools and universities, the CCP is exerting and growing its influence. Under the directions of the CCP Office of Overseas Propaganda, China has established a network of so-called Confucius Institutes at American education institutions. In 2009, Li Changcheng, the head of the agitprop for CCP, called these outposts an important part of Chinese overseas propaganda setup. Their MO is simple. China gives American host universities cash, and CCP operatives get a chance to teach a distorted, regime-friendly history of the Chinese state to American students. Meanwhile, and perhaps more importantly, these same operatives get to live in close proximity to all the resources of our modern research institutions and have access to important inside information about sensitive and often taxpayer-funded activities of our brightest minds. As one of his first acts in office, President Biden revoked the rules proposed by President Trump that would have put pressure on American universities to disclose their foreign ties and funding. Perhaps Mr. Biden should have consulted with his nominee to be the director of the Central Intelligence Agency, Mr. William Burns. Mr. Burns said just last month in his testimony before the Senate confirmation hearings that the Confucius Institutes were a genuine risk to U.S. security. Furthermore, he said that if he were a president of a university or college that hosted a Confucius Institute, he would shut it down. House Bill 1238 does just what Mr. Burns has suggested. It forecloses opportunities for these odious organizations on all Tennessee university and campuses, university and college campuses, and it also requires that these institutions report any foreign gifts or contracts from foreign sources for over $10,000 each fiscal year. Members, I ask for your support on this bill because this is a genuine need. And in fact, we had one of these institutions operating at one of our colleges that I won't mention. With that, I stand ready to answer questions.
Thank you, Chairman Reagan. Members, you have questions on House Bill 1238. Could you withdraw that for a second, Representative Clemens?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I mean, the rhetoric that you used, I'm curious how this legislation is going to prevent what you claim to be happening, not being able to host a Confucius Institute at a school and disclosing money. You're not prohibiting the money, you're just requiring the disclosure. So all those threats and impending Red Scare type of atmosphere that you created, how is this going to prevent that?
Chairman Reagan.
Hopefully it's going to prevent it by bringing it to the public attention. The fine ladies and gentlemen we just had in here before us, the trustees of the universities and colleges in our state, when they're made aware of this, will take the appropriate action. That's exactly how that will happen, sir.
Representative Clemens, follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a lot of very unfortunate discrimination right now against Asian Americans across the country. Do you not fear that this type of legislation will not increase that?
Chairman Reagan.
Frankly, sir, I don't. And I will tell you from experience, I have Asian Americans, if you will, as family members. In fact, about 8 of them. And my personal interactions with them is they are just as concerned about this phenomena as I am. And I will also tell you, in my past experience, I served as a war planner for the United States military. One of the major war plans that I had the opportunity to work on concerned the very nation that I mentioned. Obviously, I can't go into details. That's all classified, even though it's been a long time ago. But even then, that nation was perceived as a threat to our security. And if anything, it's gotten worse.
One more follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm not arguing with you about whether or not China poses a threat of some type to our country. What I'm asking you is whether or not and how this legislation is going to prevent that threat. You're still allowing money to be given. You're just requiring disclosure of it, and then just not allowing schools to host an event by a specific institute. So I guess if given this real and present threat as you've described it, how is this legislation going to address that? That's what I'm trying to get to.
In Section 1, this is named the Transparency in Foreign Investment Act, and it also lists out definitions. It prohibits an institute from hosting a Confucius Institute. Section A prohibits an institution from accepting a gift or a contract that threatens any interest regarding the integrity of the institution's research, instruction, or operations. I could go on giving you particulars, but it's specifically in the bill. And I will point out to you that one of our major institutions of higher education in this country has contracts and agreements with the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, the first and largest still national laboratory in our nation, and it deals in cutting edge technology. So having people who are there talking to others for sensitive information acquisition is something we want to avoid. Making it transparent makes it obvious, as I pointed out, to our trustees and others that this should not be allowed.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? I would like to go on record. I mentioned this in subcommittee, and Chairman Reagan agrees with me. Make sure that we don't get confused, especially our younger audience, with the nation of Taiwan, which is fighting for their independence right now. That 1949, Communist China pushed them off into their own nation, island of Taiwan. So, and we passed a resolution. I think it was Chair Lady Littleton that passed a resolution honoring Taiwan. So, we want to make that distinction.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do fully agree with you.
Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Chairman Reagan, I'm just trying to seek clarity on what the bill does. So if there is investment from, let's say, a foreign country, what is the university to do?
Chairman Reagan.
I'm sorry. Can you perhaps make that question a little more direct?
Right. I'm so unclear on the bill. I don't know how to make it more direct. So way I'm understanding it, your bill, if there's foreign investment from, obviously from other countries into our universities, or is it just specifically for China, not other foreign countries?
This bill specifically addresses Confucius Institutes, which are an entity promulgated by the Chinese Communist Party.
Right. Okay.
So it's specifically directed at them.
Okay.
And to answer your other question here, again, remember the title of this is the Transparency in the Foreign Investment Act. The idea is by making it transparent, people will know what's going on and take the appropriate action.
Right. And thank you. I think the title is what kind of confused me a little bit. So the Transparency in Foreign Investment Act, but it's only directed at one foreigner.
One foreign nation, yes, sir. I will point out that the nation of China has many subsets of ethnicities in it. We hear about one regularly called the Uyghurs, who are being discriminated against mercilessly in China. And of course, you have the Cantonese, you have a number of other subgroups, ethnicities within China. By mentioning the nation, we take all of those into account.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and I get that. And so I think what I'm trying to ask is the Transparency in Foreign Investments Act. The Chinese government, the Chinese Communist government that created the Confucius Center, or and so that's in this bill, that's the target. But my question is, aren't there other foreign governments that are doing the same thing, like the Russian government hacking, the North Korean government, Iran? I can go on down the list. Why are they not included in this bill also? Namely Russia, especially.
Chairman Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the straightforward answer to your question is they are 49-7-3102, subparagraph 2 and 3 in here specify specifically that foreign means a foreign government, including an agency of a foreign government, a legal entity, government or otherwise created solely under the laws of the foreign government or foreign states. So it does take into the ones you're talking about. But I want to be patently clear. Those other nations are not instituting or putting in place Confucius Institutes or their equivalents on Tennessee colleges and university campuses.
One more resident party.
Thank you. It is only one more, but how do we know that?
Chairman Reagan.
I'm sorry, I missed your question.
Never mind. We're good. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
And members, without objection, Ms. Callan Smith of the governor's office can give us a little clarity, and I have her on the list to speak. Ms. Smith, without objection, committee, I'd like to go out of session. Please come forward, and you have a little clarification you can make for us.
Callan Schmidt, Legislative Liaison with Governor Lee's office. Thank you so much for the question. Chairman Reagan is correct. To answer your question, Representative Parkinson, this does apply. So it does specifically ban Confucius Institutes. And then in the next section, it requires a disclosure from the universities, which we worked with them on, for any gift or donation that is over $10,000 from any foreign country.
Representative Parson, you may address our guests.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And what about domestic threats? Is there anything in the legislation for domestic terrorists, domestic threats to our state or our country that would also have to be put or where some transparency would have to be displayed in gifts from them also?
Yes, ma'am.
This bill specifically addresses foreign investments.
Last question, Mr. Chair.
Last one.
Thank you, and thank you. Is there no interest in investments from domestic threats?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe there are other mechanisms to address those through other processes. This bill specifically addresses foreign investments.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions to our Ms. Smith? Seeing none, thank you so much for the clarification. We're now back in session. Any further discussion? Question's been called. Any objections to the question? Hearing none, we're on House Bill 1238. All those in favor of moving out to calendar rules indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Moves out. Thank you, Chairman Reagan. Item number 4, House Bill 1396 by Chair Lady Hazelwood. Got a motion and a second. I do not see any amendments on this, Chair Lady.
No amendments, Mr. Chairman.
You're
Thank
recognized.
you. Thank you. This legislation deals with the best prepaid tuition plan. It was established with all good intentions to provide a methodology for families to save for future higher education costs by locking in tuition rates through a prepayment plan. But unfortunately, after the establishment, the plan has continued to struggle to meet the actuarial assumptions. And in fact, the legislature 2 different times has had to input significant funds to the total of $40 million just to keep it afloat. But there's continuing challenges to the plan, and in spite of these significant financial contributions, it just wasn't sustainable. And so the plan became ineffective. November 13th, 2015, the plan was terminated. Those people who were already in the plan, though, continued to be a part of that. And because of the way the plan is set up, there's really not an end date, a permanent end date in sight that you can point to and say, this plan will no longer be effective. So what we want to do with this legislation is to make an end date as of December 31st, 2021, that the plan would no longer be effective. People would have 60 days notice to that effect. And they'd have multiple choices of what to do with funds that are left in the plan. There's only 191 members. So in addition to the actuarial issues that I've addressed already, there's an ongoing fairly significant overhead cost with just managing the assets and all that. But those folks who are a part of the plan would be able to either remove the monies to have a refund. They could move their dollars to the Tennessee College Savings 529 program, which is a viable alternative. So with those alternatives and the fact that just, this plan is, it never did do what the legislature intended, and it's an ongoing cost. So this bill does come to us from the Treasury Department with a recommendation from the Board of Trustees for the plan. And with that, I would stand ready to answer questions.
With that explanation, any comments, questions? Question been called. I hear an objection. Hearing none. All those in favor of moving House Bill 1396 out to Finance, Ways and Means indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Moves out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Hazelwood. Item number 5, House Bill 1150 by Representative Hicks. You're recognized. You got a motion and a second. I do not see any amendments on your bill, so you're recognized on 1150.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and members, House Bill 1150 modernizes the Helping Heroes Act by allowing TSAC the latitude to add recent and future campaign designations through rule rather than statute. It also removes a provision that limits the scope of the Helping Heroes program. And with that, I stand to answer any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Members, let me mention this. For those of you who are not on subcommittee, these bills are coming out that were approved on the lottery scholarship, on the lottery calendar that we had. And the ones that came out are the ones that were approved in subcommittee for discussion today. We spent a lot of time with THEC and to make sure that we're respecting the self-sustaining fund of the lottery funds. But this one was approved by Representative Hicks. Further discussion? Question been called. Any objection? Hearing none. All those in favor of moving House Bill 1150 to Finance, Ways and Means indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Moves out. Item 6, Chairman Ramsey, House Bill 240. You got a motion and a second. You do have an amendment that rewrites your bill. Got a motion, second, your amendment. Are we working on 5201?
We are, sir.
Okay, you may explain the amendment, which rewrites, well, if it rewrites the bill, let's go ahead and you want to add the amendment. Okay, motion and a second on the amendment. All those in favor of adding it to the bill indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. So we're back on 240 as properly amended. You recognize.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And the Education Committee is fortunate to be able to be involved in the governor's correction reform bill, which this is a portion of that that did not fit his caption. What it does is it defines transitional center facilities according to interlocal agreements, sets the standards for those facilities, and shares all state lockdown standards. It also allows for interlocal fund transfer and defines transition center. This is a permissive bill and can be duplicated in other areas of the state and can apply to any jurisdiction. With that explanation, pending further questions, Mr. Chairman, I would ask for passage forward.
Okay, members, we have that explanation. Any questions, comments? Question been called. Any objection to the question? So hearing none, all those in favor of moving House Bill 240 out to calendar and rules indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Moves out.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Members, Representative Zachary, I think, has to get to another committee. He's carrying 4 bills. And if we can, if you don't mind, if I Roll next week.
Guys.
If you don't mind, just jump to item number 9, House Bill 708. Chairman Zachary, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Members, this is a fairly simple bill, but it'll have a profound impact on the disadvantaged resident students in Tennessee. This piece of legislation simply will allow South College, it extends the eligibility of South College to be able to participate in the Ben Atchley Grant. Currently, they're the only private institution domiciled in Tennessee and regionally accredited that does not have access to the Ben Atchley Grant. You'll notice that there's a 1.8 fiscal note on this, but there is a $113 million appropriation for the Student Assistant Award Program. Currently, $103 million are being used. So that's $10 million that are unused every year. So putting South College into the grant program with a $1.8 million will simply pull that from the existing fund, which still leaves $8 million additional dollars. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Representative Parkinson.
Mr. Chair, roll me one space, please.
Okay. And members, I will mention this. This one, we took us 2 weeks to get this out of subcommittee to get a good understanding. If it came out with a favorable approval, we agree with that. And we just had to slow it down a little bit to make sure we knew what we were doing. But a good bill. Representative Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to Chairman Zachary. Thank you for finding some money in the General Assembly where some bills can be beneficial to get their fiscal notes taken care of. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the bill, House Bill 708. Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you had rolled me right on off the list, huh? And Chairman Zachary, I just want you to know, after some nudging, I'm on board with it. So but they nudged. And I appreciate everyone who fought for this, and I'm supporting. So thank you.
You recognize, sir.
Thank you, Representative. I appreciate your support. And I don't know if it had anything to do with the fact that South College, while they have campuses throughout the state, they do not have campuses in China or Taiwan. So I don't know if that made a difference in but thank you for that.
Yeah. Let's call the question real quick. Any objection to the question? Question's been called. Hearing none. All those in favor of moving House Bill 708 out to Finance, Ways and Means indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you. Chairman Powers, would you allow me to take our caucus leader? He's also got to go to another meeting real quick. Representative Faison, Leader Faison.
I'll let Chairman Zachary break line. I don't know if I can do it for
And then I will come. And then we'll get back on track again, Chairman Powers. You're recognized 646, Chairman.
Thank you. And committee and chairman, good to be with y'all. There is an amendment that writes this bill. Drafting code is 1364.
Sir, we added that in subcommittee, so you're good.
Oh, okay. Members, this bill is, obviously we in Tennessee put a premium on our children getting education. There is a situation with the Tennessee Promise with some kids who have been homeschooled. It adds some stipulations for them to be able to get the Tennessee Promise, but it makes it to where homeschooled children, providing that they meet certain criteria, can get the Tennessee Promise as well.
And this was one that came out with a favorable recommendation from the subcommittee on the lottery calendar. Okay. Further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of moving 646 out to Finance, Ways and Means indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Moves out. Now, Chairman Powers, on item number 7, HB 542. You got a motion and a second. I don't see an amendment.
No amendments.
No amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. House Bill 542 is the Middle College Scholarship Program. Middle College, as you know, is operated by two-year post-secondary institutions and partnerships with the LEAs. It permits students in the fall of their junior year in high school to enter a two-year institution to earn a high school diploma and an associate's degree at the same time. It's a great program, has a 95% of the students that go to this program transition and complete a 4-year degree. So we're very proud of it, what's been done for the last 5 years. This bill would raise the scholarship fund available from $1,000 per semester to $1,250 per semester. Right now, it's approximately $2,000 or $4,000 a year, so they would still end up coming out of pocket $1,500 per year to pay for this. So with that, I'll be glad to ask any questions and renew my motion.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, this also came out of the lottery calendar recommendation. Takes about 139,500 from the lottery funds and didn't go above our $5 million cap. So questions to Chairman Powers? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, thank you. And Chairman Powers, I want to thank you for bringing this bill. It's a good bill and it's needed. And you know, I think there's going to be a benefit. The ripple effect is going to be a huge benefit, you know, to our state as these individuals get into the workforce earlier than projected. Thank you so much. And I'm signing on also.
All right, thank you. We have a lot of great stories. We just had a 19-year-old that went through middle college up where I live, and he's just been accepted into medical school at 19 years old. So it's an amazing story. Okay.
Question been called. Any objection? We're now voting on House Bill 542. All those in favor of moving it out to Finance, Ways, and Means indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Moves out, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
Okay, that brings us to item number 10, House Bill 925. Is Representative Cochran, or will you be carrying that for Chairman Bond? I'm sorry. Ogles, you're right. We have a motion and second on House Bill 925, item 10 on your calendar. It does have a couple of amendments. Could you let us know which one we're working off of?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I believe we are attaching drafting code 4757.
Okay, members. Okay, 4757, motion second to add it to the bill since it does rewrite the bill. All those in favor of adding it to 925 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We're now back on the bill as properly amended. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so this one is pretty straightforward. Currently, state law requires that LEAs, they adopt a comprehensive district-wide school safety plan, and they do that with the assistance of the state of Tennessee. The state kind of provides a template. Part of that safety plan, it's regarding crisis intervention, emergency response, emergency management. Basically, what this bill does is it says that template that the state provides to those local districts includes cybersecurity and kind of it assists our local LEAs in making their cybersecurity more stringent and more secure. So with that, I will pause with any questions, and I hope they're not too terribly in depth, and I don't have to refer them to Representative Ogles.
Do you have questions on 925? Any objection to the question? All those in favor of moving 925 out to calendar rules indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Moves out.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
Thank you, Representative Cochran, for carrying that. Item 11, that is rolled 1 week. Item 12, House Bill 1332 by Representative Harris. Sure, we'll give him a few seconds. Representative Harris, you're recognized on the podium. We're on House Bill 1332, item 12. You have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Chairman. 1332 is a bill that would not prohibit a child placed in.
Let me stop you 1 second.
Yes.
You have an amendment that rewrites the bill.
Oh,
It's amendment-
absolutely.
Is it 5477?
That's it.
Make sure we line up. It does rewrite the bill, members. Can we add it to the bill going forward? All those in favor of adding the amendment 5477 to the bill indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Now you're back on 1332 as
Great.
amended.
Thank you so much, Chairman. And to the committee, for this bill right here, this one would ensure that an LEA or public charter school would not prohibit a child placed in a foster care from participating in school-sponsored student activities or event based solely on the child's residency placement in foster care. And this bill, I actually worked with TSSAA as well as some of our committee members on the subcommittee in making sure that we drafted this legislation properly to ensure that our foster youth are able to play sports. There was a situation recently in the fall where one of my constituents, his name is Cameron, he ended up being placed into foster care, and because of the residency rule, which is a good rule, it hurts our foster care youth. And so he ended up making the football team. They were very, very excited to have him, and then turned around and found out that he was a DCS child at that moment. And because he was in that program, he didn't live with the foster parent for at least a year. And so that kept him from being able to play sports. They ended up had the application had the radio button on there that said he was part of DCS. The executive director for TSSAA would have been able to research a little bit more and probably approved him, but the school didn't necessarily do their part. So this bill would be able to correct and fix some of that. And so I think with the helps of committee members on this committee, as well as some of the organizations, we were able to draft this properly. And so I'm glad to turn this back over to the chair.
With that explanation, members, 1332, comments, discussion. The question's been called as amended on the bill 1332. All those in favor of moving it to calendar and rules indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Moves out.
Thank you so much.
Item 13, House Bill 44 by Representative Sparks. You're recognized. You have a motion and a second. Explain the bill.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. Members, this bill seeks to improve the BEP funding formula for social workers. Currently, it's 1 in 2,000. We're asking for 1 in 1,500. And I think the industry standard, or what they feel is appropriate, is 250. So I think this request in 1 in 1,500 is very reasonable.
Members, that explanation, and just start the discussion. Representative Sparks, we have several bills of social workers, mental health workers, nurses, and if this bill were to pass out, no, I'm personally not objectional to having more social workers, but it will go to finance. No, we'll go to, yes, finance. Do you have any advice as you go to finance as far as funding?
Well, I do have a sign-on sheet, like I mentioned in subcommittee, that Representative
Okay.
Cassidy can sign on, and some others have signed on. Members, as I presented this last year, if you bear with me for a second, I'd have never thought I'd carry this piece of legislation 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And I think Parkinson put me on the spot and said, why? Why would you do that? Because it sounded kind of terrible me saying that. But mental health is a serious issue today, more so today more than it was last week or last month or last year, more so than it was when I was in school. But I wanted to read a letter from you. We put together an event, my assistant and I put together an event on mental health and opioid crisis a year and a half ago at Parkway Baptist Church. We invited several folks, a judge, Barry Tidwell, Dr. Brian Terry was there, several other folks, Tennessee Mental Health Cooperative, and both my school superintendents were there. And we were just trying to say, hey, what can we do with what we're seeing in our culture and society? So Dr. Linda Gilbert, as I mentioned, I think before, sadly, she passed away. But here's her letter that she wrote me before she died, members. She has said, please thank Representative Sparks for reaching out. Yes, more funding for counselors will certainly help with the social emotional issues we're seeing. Another area is social workers. They are vital, and in many school districts are not able to fund them. I also think it would be helpful for him and other legislators to talk to the school superintendents about the issues we're seeing in very young children. The behaviors of our 6 to 9-year-olds are like nothing we've ever seen before. And I'll repeat, the behaviors of our 6 to 9-year-olds are like nothing we've ever seen before. They are inordinately disruptive and aggressive, and we are bringing all of our resources into play. There's no place for these children to go and be assessed. I feel very good about what the Department of Education is trying to accomplish in this area with emphasis on the whole child. And she says, I'm hopeful that the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse will work alongside with them to address the upper tier of children for whom there seems to be no answers. And that's thanks again, Linda. And sadly, she passed away after that. I believe it's Social Worker Day on the Hill today. I think they had about 400. You know, if y'all give them a round of applause for our social workers that showed up today.
Thank you very much. With that explanation from Representative Sparks, I just wanted to point out, it does have a $6.6 million recurring note, and that's always a challenge for us, but a good bill. Further discussion? Hearing none. Any objections to the question? Hearing none. All those in favor of moving House Bill 44 out to Finance, Ways and Means indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, members. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. You need to do that. Okay.
Sorry, that the last one? Yeah.
Well, the one that Leader Lambert.
Sparks. Lambert is number 2 on the calendar.
Go back to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Members, I need, I've got Leader Lambert in here now. We rolled House Bill 139. Do I have a motion to reconsider? We got a motion and a second to reconsider. Leader Lambert is going to. Okay, I do have a motion and a second on reconsidering. All, any objection? Okay, the motion's been approved. Leader Lambert, you're here, you're recognized on 139.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and pinch hitting for another member that was going to be running this bill today, but it is an administration bill, and this is a bill that many of you have already heard about, dealing with our foster care children. When they hit 18 years of age, many times they do not have the same benefits of a child that has been adopted or other children, and we want to make sure that they have the same benefits under the Hope Scholarship and then some as our other children. Many of these children have already suffered a significant setback in life by losing their parents or other circumstances that put them into foster care, so this just gives them a leg up.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and second on the bill, right? Give me a motion. And second, okay. Leader Lambert, thank you for coming in, presenting this as a good bill. Discussion on the bill. Representative Carringer.
Thank you, Leader Lambert, for bringing this bill, and I wholeheartedly support this 110%. And thank you very much. This is very dear to my heart, so thank you very much. It's what we need to be doing up here.
Thank you. We had a motion. Excuse me. We had the question's been called. All those in favor of moving item number 2, which is House Bill 139, out to calendar Finance, Ways and Means, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Leader
Mr. Chairman,
Lambert.
thank you, members of the
Very
committee.
much. Item 1403 by Representative Hall. You're recognized. You got a motion. You got a second. As soon as the mic's ready, there are no amendments on your bill, so you are recognized to carry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. House Bill 1403 is very simple. It is nothing more than total transparency and a full disclosure bill. Basically, anytime the school system communicates information regarding vaccines, they must also include and disclose information about religious exemptions. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Representative Hall also had one guest that wanted to speak on this for a moment, Ms. Amy Miller. And without objection, the committee, no objection, Ms. Miller, if you would come up to the mic and just take 1 or 2 minutes and give your presentation. Without objection, we're out of session. Ms. Miller, you're recognized. State your name and where you're from for the record.
Hi, my name is Amy Miller, and I am a mother, and this bill is extremely important to my family as well as many others that I've spoken to. The communication for religious and medical exemptions is crucial when it comes through the school system. Having parents know what they need to comply with what the school needs makes the school in compliance as well as the parents. And that's what this bill will do. It will communicate the immunizations, what you need to do if you get immunizations, the medical, what is needed for the medical exemption, as well as religious, such as the religious statement. I've walked through this. I've walked through it with school. My family holds an exemption, and I have had to go through being questioned to a lot of questions actually on what I was supposed to have for my exemption and what I was being told that I needed. And they were two very different things. And I think this would just be simple clarification for the parent as well as the school, simply stating what the law currently says, and it's not changing the law. So I would ask for support on this for my family as well as many other families that need this information.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Members, while we're out of session, anybody have a question for Ms. Miller on the bill in discussion? Hearing none. Thank you, Ms. Miller. Thank you very much. Without objection, we're back in session on House Bill 1403. Further discussion, members? Chairman Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to the sponsor, I understand that the Senate has put an amendment on this. What is your opinion of the Senate amendment, sir?
That's a great question, Representative. I think this bill is in its best posture and it's in its best language without the amendment. I think when it's clean and the water's not muddied and it's not whittled down or watered down, I think this bill stands alone, and I think it's a good bill. It's great legislation.
Chairman Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. And Mr. Chairman, I happen to agree with the sponsor.
Further discussion? Oh, Representative Hakeem, didn't you have a question? I had you on my list. Okay, question's been called for. All those in favor of moving House Bill 1403 out to Health Committee, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Moves out to Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Item 15, House Bill 1421 by Representative Grills. You got a motion and a second. You do have an amendment. It's 5551. It doesn't say that it's rewrites the bill. Representative Grill, does it rewrite the bill?
No, sir, it does not.
I tell you what, before we add it to the bill, let's get an explanation of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What this bill does, this gives you the religious exemption in the time of a pandemic. Just like any other day of the week, you have a religious exemption to refuse a vaccination. All this does is give you that same exemption in a time of a pandemic. If you look over to 496-5001, the general provisions, that's where we're dealing with.
Do we have a motion? Do we have, back up one second. I didn't get a chance to ask if there's any discussion. Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sponsor, for bringing this. Just point of clarification. You just said pandemic, and I'm reading here epidemic. Which one is it?
Mr. Chairman?
You're recognized, sir.
Can we allow legal to give an explanation of that?
Mr. Williams, were you able to give an explanation to, or do you need the question restated? Representative Gillespie, would you restate the question?
It's my understanding that epidemic and pandemic, there are significant differences in what those are defined. And just, we clarify that because the amendment says epidemic and the sponsor just said pandemic. So I'm a little confused.
You recognize, sir.
John Williams, Office of Legal Services, 4965001B, subdivision B2 states, in the absence of an epidemic or immediate threat of an epidemic, this section shall not apply to a child whose parent or guardian files with the school authorities a signed written statement that the immunization and other preventative measures conflict with the parents or guardian's religious tenets and practices. So it states epidemic in B2.
Does that answer your question, sir? Okay, Representative Grills?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Are we back in session?
No, we were never out. We were just asking.
Okay. Let me rephrase that then. How about we use the term in the time of an epidemic then, Representative Gillespie, if that would be more suited for you. Maybe I misspoke, and I want to make sure that we get that clarified.
It's in the legal language. We're good.
Sir.
Okay, further discussion. We're on House Bill 1421. Excuse me, we're on the amendment. The amendment was just explained to us. Any discussion on Amendment 5551? Hearing none. Question's been called. Your bill has been amended. You're now back. Any further Discussion, members. Question's been called on the bill. Any objection? Hearing none. All those in favor of moving 1421 out to Health Committee indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
Item number 16, is that rolled?
16 is rolled 1 week.
Item 16, 1174 by Baum has been rolled 1 week. Item 17, 1410 has been rolled 1 week. Item 18 by Chairman Baum is rolled 1 week. Item House Bill 1335. Item number 19, House Bill 1363. Chairman Sapicki, I think you're carrying this. You're recognized on House Bill 1363. No amendments, so you're recognized. We need a motion in a second. And we got a second. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1363, I'm carrying for Chairman Carter. Obviously, he could not be here today. We are always thinking about him in our thoughts and prayers. And if he is watching, hopefully he'll be able to present this on the House floor if it gets that far. Basically, what this does, it is defining a teacher, Mr. Chairman and members. And basically what this bill does is very simple. Someone who holds a state license to teach who spends 50% or more time instructing students in a class or online. Number two, does not include support professionals, administrators, or supervisors if that individual spends less than 50% of their time instructing students. And lastly, this bill further provides that if a state salary increase is proposed in the state budget document or included in the general appropriations bill for teachers and other licensed or certified personnel or staff, then the state budget document and the general appropriations bill must account for the salary increase for teachers separate from the salary increase of other licensed or certified personnel and staff. What this bill does not do is give us, prevent us from having latitude to giving pay raises to more individuals. It just delineates when the governor or the General Assembly speaks of teachers, that is where that money is intended to go. So it does not prohibit from putting more money in the instructional line of the BEP for other salaries and wages, but it just delineates where it's going to go for teachers. I'll try to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Members, conversation, discussion on House Bill 1363. Crickets? Question's been called. Question's been called. All those in favor of moving House Bill 1363 out to calendar and rules indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 462, item 20 by Representative Chairman Sapicki. You're recognized.
Motion on it, Bill.
Okay. Need a motion and a second. Got a motion and a second, sir. Go ahead.
We will be working off an amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Is the amendment 4503?
That's correct, sir. And it does make the bill.
It makes the bill. So members, can we go ahead and add the amendment to the bill for discussion? Motion is second. Any objection? All those in favor of adding 4503 amendment onto House Bill 462 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You're now back on the bill as properly amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What House Bill 462 does is help us address the problem we have with remedial coursework and the meaningfulness of graduation diplomas and graduation rates in Tennessee. This bill will work with the Department of Education to help them gather the information so we can come back next session and try to figure out what we can do to help our students when they graduate need less remedial coursework when they go to college. Therefore, it makes the Tennessee Promise when they go to community college, it makes it 2 years instead of 3 years. So hopefully we can get this information back in a timely manner, and then we'll be back next year with a bill to hopefully address this problem. I'll be happy to answer questions.
That explanation, House Bill 462, members, questions, comments, discussion. Hearing none. Any objection? All those in favor of moving 462 out of calendar and rules indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 21, House Bill 525, Chairman Sapicki. It's what? It's just 5 o'clock. Okay, You're recognized. You're recognized.
We'll be working off an amendment, Mr. Chairman, for 5481.
5481, it does rewrite the bill. So members, can we add the amendment to the bill before discussion? Motion in a second on that. So all those in favor of adding amendment 5481 to House Bill 525 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. You're back on your bill. Is it properly amended? You may describe it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, when we went through the special session in the learning loss bill, there were emergency rules that gave the Board of Education the ability for teachers in the upcoming school year that don't have to be credentialed or licensed for an end of course test. So 1-year exemption. The problem was that only lasted for 180 days. Well, we need this legislation to give them the ability to promulgate a permanent rule to allow that to happen for the 21-22 school year. That's all it does. It expires after the 21-22 school year, and then back in 22-23, the credentials and the endorsements have to go back into place. That's all.
With that explanation, members, House Bill 525, discussion. Hearing none. Those in favor of moving it out to calendar and rules? Aye. Let's start over. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Moves out to calendar and rules. 22, House Bill 777 by Representative Sapicki. You got a motion and a second. There is an amendment that rewrites it. It's Amendment 5558.
That is correct. Does make the bill.
Members, motion is second on the amendment that rewrites the bill. All those in favor of adding it to the bill indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. You're now back on your bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, this is the governor's proposal for the BEP for our local LEA systems. You know, we have, and it's right behind us, it'll be House Bill 590, was what we've been working on to come up with from the House. This bill has now come up from the governor's office. And remember, we talked back about hold harmless, where we're basically making sure that they were going to be funded for the upcoming school year. This is what the bill does. It's very simple. What it says is that whenever an LEA received in the BEP in 2021, they will receive in 21-22 unless they had growth, and they would get the additional money on top of that. It's only for the 21-22 school year. That's it, to make sure that they're held harmless for the 1 year with the students that come back in August. And all they have to do is maintain the property attendance and truancy day-to-day report right now. That's all the bill does, and it is funded by the governor.
Thank you. We have Representative Clemens. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this question goes to the compliance with truancy that we talked about before. How much leniency or discretion does the department have to determine whether or not a LEA is in full compliance with state school attendance and truancy laws? Right, this year is kind of hard to track. I mean, we've got students who have returned, haven't returned. What type of discretion does the department have there?
Yes, sir. You're recognized.
Thank you. Great question. I believe what the intent of the governor and the Department of Education is, as long as the effort is being made to keep track of these students where they're going to be, because we hope in August of 21-22, we are back in school, and it makes it a lot easier for the kids that are virtual to track them because they'll be back in the classroom. But the normal laws that apply to truancy will still be applying. There'll be no change.
One more.
Representative Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, my concern is the school district being unfairly held accountable here in direct contrast to your intent and intended spirit of the bill, simply because, you know, any particular school district might have a difficult time tracking students and arbitrarily apply a truancy standard, from county to county. So that's my concern, and just want to get on the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, members. Further discussion on House Bill 777. Question's been called. Objection? All those in favor of moving 777 out to Finance, Ways, and Means indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. And Representative Spicky, is 590 off notice then?
Roll this to the heel of the last calendar, please.
Without objection, House Bill 590 is rolled to the hill of the last calendar.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. You're recognized on House Bill 1215.
If I can just give a brief explanation, the reason why that was rolled to the heel of the calendar is we got to make sure that 777 makes it across the finish line, or we have no mechanism to be able to help our LEAs. 1777 makes it across the finish line, that bill will go off notice. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You have one more, item 24, House Bill 1215.
Yes, sir.
You got a motion, have a second? Second. No amendments on this, so you recognize on the bill.
So what 1215 does, and I'll give you a little bit of a history lesson, and I'll be as brief as I can. The Commissioner of Health used to have to take a recommendation for vaccines to our schools, to add a vaccine to our schools, to a Council of Health. The Council of Health was disbanded back in 2008, and so what happens now is the Commissioner of Health wants to make a recommendation to add a vaccine to our schools, and what they do is they go to the government ops to get a rule promulgated. What this bill does is now it changes that to where the Commissioner of Health can make a recommendation to add a vaccine for our school children, but the Commissioner of Health will bring that proposal to the health committees of both the House and the Senate, get the recommendation, go to the House floor for a full vote. So all members of the House, all members of the Senate are totally aware of any vaccine that's being added for our schools. And then that would be approved, and then they can go ahead and take action if in government ops if they need to. Happy to answer any questions.
That explanation, questions, discussion. Hear none. I've heard the question called for. Any objection, members? All those in favor of moving House Bill 1215 to calendar and rules indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Moves out, sir. Members, we have one bill left on the calendar. That's mine. I'm going to pass the gavel to Chairman Chris Hurt.
Thank you. We've been motion seconded on House Bill 471 by Chairman White. Chairman White, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Hurt. Members, this is the last bill that came out of the lottery calendar last week in subcommittee with a favorable recommendation. I do have the director of the Mortec School here, Mr. Skip Redmond. Without objection, members, I would like to have him explain a little bit about the school going forward. It does have $148,000 recurring on the lottery scholarship like the other ones did. But with that, Mr. Chairman Hurt, could we go out of session for?
Sure. Thank you, Chairman White. Without objection, we'll go out of session to listen to testimony. With that, we're out of session. You're recognized, sir. Please state your name and who you're with for the record.
Thank you, Leader Hurt. My name is Skip Redmond. I'm the president of Mortec. We're in Memphis. We domicile here in the state of Tennessee. We're a college that was founded in 1909. We've been graduating students since 1939. Our main focus is workforce technology, workforce development. We have 7 different programs that focus on the vocational trades. We have auto tech, machine shop, welding, HVAC, property maintenance, industrial electricity, and plumbing, and a plumbing apprenticeship program. We have, 2 years ago, we entered into an agreement with Shelby County Schools to accept dual enrollment students, and we had 53 enroll. We funded that through an empty seat tuition rate. Basically, we had open seats in our classes at the time, so we allowed those students to access our programs. They transported the students onto campus, and they also paid for their the Shelby County Schools paid for their equipment, their welding fees and things of that nature. At this point in time, we have an agreement with them to accept up to 200 students this coming fall. Last fall, obviously, we did not receive any students from Shelby County due to the COVID shutdown. So we're asking for your financial support to allow those students to attend. And again, in the past, we had an empty seat tuition rate, but we can't afford to continue to charge that tuition. These students that are coming are typically first-generation students and are focused around our campus that are mostly in the poverty areas. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Redmond. With that, members, we'll take questions. And first on the list, we have Representative Hakeem. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Redmond, well, I shouldn't direct this to you. And what I understand is that your programs and the school itself has done and is doing outstanding work. But the question for me, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me? Okay. The question for me is, are we opening the door for entities that are not in our system, where we set a precedence? And, I don't know if I may be overstepping, talking about lawsuits or something like that, but is this a question that we need to resolve? And I guess to resolve that, truly, would we need to go to summer study to try to get an understanding? Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. With that, I'll refer to Chairman White for comments on that topic. Chairman White, you're recognized.
Thank you, and thank you, Representative Hakeem. What I would say to that, every member, of course, can draft any bill in their area for a particular one. This was tightly drawn. Actually, I worked on for not this particular bill, but 4 years drafting for the Tennessee Promise. So we have whittled this down to this is a organization that's been in Memphis for 84 years.
Yes, sir.
84 years. And just doing a lot of good workforce development for the community. I went and visited several times, but one time I took the mayor of Memphis, and young man that was in the automotive tech, he said, this course has saved my life. It's given him direction and an employment, which pays very, very well in automotive things. So your question is, or your comment is correct. Any member could on things like this, but when you have a good program that's working, then that's why I'm advocating for it.
Thank you, Chairman White. And next on the list, we have Representative Clemens. You're recognized.
Thank you. And my questions for the gentleman here. Is this a not-for-profit institution?
Yes, sir. We are a nonprofit organization with a 15-member board that governs the institution.
And y'all provide student loans, that type of thing, privately or?
We receive Pell funding, TSAC funding, VA funding, VOC rehab funding. We do not do student loans. We feel like when they go to work, they should be collecting their check and not having to pay off loans. Our tuition is equal to or less than Southwest Community College and TCAT here in Memphis.
And yeah,
Representative Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And from my recollection, from my time in Memphis, you do have physical locations. These are physical.
Yes, sir.
This is not an online.
No, sir. We were shut down from March till about May 30th. We opened back up fully, and we do a little bit of online for our gen ed courses, but all of our programs are hands-on learning.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. And next on this, we have Chairman Lafferty. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I heard the number 200 students. I looked down at the fiscal note. I see $148,000. That seems. Could you give me? Let me back up. It sounds like there's a mix of dollars, both lottery funds and perhaps some from the schools, the Memphis schools systems. Could you give me an idea how all that fits together, how that works?
The tuition structures, I'm really not sure how much we would be receiving from the state, whether we're identified as kind of like a TCAT versus a community college. But I'm sure the fiscal note would include that it's a 2-semester figure. In other words, there's actually 400 students that's going to be involved, 200 fall, 200 winter. And I did not work with the state agency on figuring the fiscal note, so I can't answer that question.
Chairman Lafferty, you're recognized.
Okay, so thank you, Chair. So it's not a combination of these funds. And you mentioned earlier that the local schools.
The local schools will pay for their equipment, their tool bag, their welding helmet, things of that nature. But that's not included in this figure. No, sir.
And did I also hear you say that most of your students graduate with no student debt?
Yes, sir.
Bless your heart. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Members, any other questions for our guest? Thank you, Mr. Redmond.
Thank you
for
very
being
much.
here.
I appreciate your time.
Question, Mr. Chairman. Go back in session. With that, we'll go back in session. We're back in session. Question on the bill. Any objections? With that, we'll be voting on, let me get back to we'll be voting on House Bill 471. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it. Bill passes to finance. With that, members.
Before.
Chairman White, you recognize.
Before we leave, before we adjourn, I was told by our research analyst, item 24, House Bill 1215, we need to reconsider actions. We sent it to calendar and rules. It needs to go to Health Committee. Move to reconsider. Any objection? All those in favor of moving it to Health Committee, House Bill 1215, indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Now.
Team effort. Have